Now Blade the Daywalker has finally arrived in Marvel Rivals, the character I've been waiting for since Season 0. And what I have for you today is the ultimate and only guide you will ever need to know for Blade in Marvel Rivals. We're talking about abilities, playstyles, possible counters, tech, everything you need to know. And just a quick little reminder, at 20,000 subscribers, we're going to be doing a giveaway, so I highly encourage you to join in. And it just greatly helps out the channel. But that's enough about that, let's dive straight in. Now, because it is a guide video, of course we're going to be having to talk about his abilities and kit. Now, Blade is going to have a total of 350 HP. Now, I'm pretty sure the only other hero with this health pool is Wolverine. But anyways, let's talk about his two different weapons. He first is going to have his Blade Chopper, which is the left mouse button if you're using the sword, and you use Dracula's sword to slash in front of you, inflicting damage to the enemy hit. Following that, his, secondary weapon, quote unquote, is the hunting gun, using a hunting shotgun to fire a long-range explosive fragmentation round that delivers a large amount of shrapnel at the point of detonation. So when and where do you swap between these two abilities? Basically, you're chipping away at the enemy's HP bar with his hunting gun, then you get up close and personal with the chopping blade. That's kind of the gameplay loop, but more of that in the playstyle section. Now, by pressing the right mouse button, you actually perform a damage block. Basically, you use Dracula's sword to set up a sword stance that reduces damage from in front of you. Now, this is just super useful to take reduced damage, and honestly, it can be used in a ton of different ways. Again, more of that later. Now, moving on more to the ability side, we come to Step and Chop, and that's on the shift button. Now, what's cool about this ability is whatever weapon you have out will change the outcome of what the ability does. The default ability setting is that you sprint forward. Now, if you use Step and Chop and you have the hunting gun out, you will actually dash up, shoot the enemy, and apply a anti-heal effect. Versus when you have the sword out, you still do the sprint forward, but if you're wielding a sword, you slash an enemy and apply a reduce in movement speed. So this is very useful if you're trying to catch escaping enemies. Now, his next ability is Blood Liberation. This is on E for mouse and keyboard, and you activate Vampiric Bloodline. All blood becomes Dracula's blood. You gain stronger senses, however you can't be healed at this time, but can restore Dracula's blood by inflicting damage. So basically, your allies can't heal you. The only way to quote-unquote heal yourself is to deal damage. A pretty cool trade-off. Now, Blade's ultimate is after building up your strength for a short period of time, you quickly unsheath your sword and charge forward while releasing a powerful chop and leaving Dracula's sword frantically chopping the area behind you. Now, besides looking absolutely amazing, this ability can be used in a ton of different ways. But before we go about that, let me talk about the team up. Blade's team up is with Cloak and Dagger and Moon Knight. All you need is Cloak and Dagger on your team, you don't really need the Moon Knight. But using this team up ability, it creates a dome that makes Blade invisible for a short time while still allowing him to attack. The dome also passively heals him, adding extra survivability. It's pretty much the same exact team up that Moon Knight has, but instead it's with Blade, which is pretty cool. Now, I never like interrupting videos, but I just want to take a minute of your time to talk about today's sponsor who greatly helped me out, and that's none other than Control. And I'm excited to share that this video is sponsored by Control, a delicious protein-packed snack or just a tasty way to fuel your day. Control has you covered. And personally, I'm all about their peanut butter pieces cookies. Seriously, they taste amazing and they fit perfectly into my daily routine. Whether it's a quick shake in the morning or a protein-packed snack in the afternoon, Control's products are both macro-friendly and ridiculously tasty. And now they've got two new must-try products. First off is their Monster Cookie, a soft-baked protein cookie loaded with white and milk chocolate chips plus crushed cookie pieces, and it tastes ridiculously amazing. And if you're more of a protein shake friend, they have a Paradise Potion Shake. It's a refreshing mix of sweet coconut and tart pineapple blended into and it's honestly fantastic. Now, Control's snacks and shakes are designed to fuel active lifestyles, whether you're hitting the gym, gaming for hours, or just need a convenient, nutritious option. If you're looking for your next go-to protein shake, check out Control's website using the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And don't forget, use code DUCK at checkout to save 10% on order. But anyways, back to the video. Regardless, thank you for sticking to this video. Now, here's kind of the playstyle that I found most effective when it came to playing Blade. He's a character that does relatively well in 1v1 scenarios, but when it comes to 1vx's, this is where things get a little bit interesting. But let's first talk about the topic of a 1v1 type situation. Well, the whole gameplay loop is about keeping the pressure pressure on. You want to chip away at the enemy from a distance with the hunting gun. It does a decent amount of damage, so I would get him, relatively low before you close in for the elimination. Once the target is, decently low, you have a couple options. That option being only really using the step and chop ability. Now, it depends on how you want to use it. It also depends on the situation, if that makes sense. If you felt like your target was low enough to use the step and chop with the sword ability, then by all means go for that if you feel like you can get the elimination. Now, the other way to approach this scenario is that if you feel like if you were to use the step and chop with the sword and you're not going to get the elimination, then use the hunting gun. Because again, when you use step and chop with the hunting gun, it applies a anti-heal effect, meaning that that target can't get healed or anything of the sort. Because for whatever reason, if you're not able to finish that elimination, you at least have that anti-heal effect that gives you a little bit more leeway to finish off the target. Again, I only say this slightly because it all depends on the circumstance. Now, don't forget about his E ability or the Bloodline Liberation. Again, he unleashes his vampiric form, heightening his senses, and he gains an increased attack speed and movement speed for 8 seconds. But the trade-off is that he cannot receive healing from outside sources. The only healing he receives is by damaging enemies. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. You do more damage, but you have to close the gap to be able to get the healing. Now, you could either use this for super aggressive plays or chasing down enemies. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, how it's a double-edged sword, I just want to re-emphasize that it is a high-risk, high-reward type of playstyle. If you pop this ability and you're not able to close the gap, it could spell easy disaster for yourself. Now, before you pop this ability, I would try to keep some things in mind, like, can I close the gap in time to use it effectively? Things like that you should be asking yourself. Now, I have this section because I really just want to hone in on his ultimate. Now, like I previously stated, it's a devastating AoE damage skill that can be used in various ways. One way is by using it to initiate a team fight. The other way is to use it as kind of like an escape tool. Now, even though you're using it as an escape tool, it can still do a crazy amount of damage. Now, it's not like it's going to take you to back from where you casted it from. You actually go through the enemies and end up where you end up. So again, if you really don't want to get eliminated, you want to keep that kill streak alive for whatever reason, or you don't want to stagger, you can sacrifice your ultimate to, get that extra survivability if you really wanted to. Now, in terms of tech, you can use the step and chop to dash up, but then use the ultimate to hit flyers like in the trailer if you really wanted to. But most of the time, it's usually pretty good for dealing with ground targets, I would say. Now, if you want to get those extra style points, then by all means, go for the anti-flyer strategy. Now, with his lifesteal mechanics and dash ability, Blade is going to be playing as an aggressive duelist, capable of chasing down enemies while debuffing them with the anti-heal effects. Now, with that information, and with him excelling so well in 1v1 scenarios, I kind of want to give you like the best team comps for Blade that I'm kind of putting together. Now, when I think about trying to slot Blade into team compositions, I have some ideas. When it comes to the quote-unquote meta Season 3 team compositions, you think of main duelists like Hela, Psylocke, Phoenix. You could throw some other dive duelists into the equation, but that's generally your duelist lineup. And again, this is in a perfect world where you're playing 2-2-2 team compositions. And when I think of duelist pairing, I would probably think of Hela paired up with Blade or Phoenix paired up with Blade. And that is if you're playing just a standard front to back team composition. And this team composition, Blade is taking on the role of Psylocke. Because Blade does extremely well in those 1v1 scenarios, just like Psylocke, you're kind of playing him the same way. You're going in the backline, you're being a nuisance, you're dealing with the strategist, things like that. Because again, you can't really go for those 1v1 scenarios if you're facing the entire Vanguard lineup of the enemy team, or if you're getting focus fired by the other duelists on the enemy team as well. Maybe not necessarily playing it like a Psylocke, maybe closer to that of Magic in the similar sense. Hopefully you get the idea. But in terms of, the standard Vanguard and Strategist lineup, I'll probably still be running the same exact thing that in Season 3. Magneto Emma with a Luna Snow Loki or a Cloak and Dagger Loki, things like that. That's your backline. And it'll probably be that for quite a while now, it seems. Now we come to how to counter Blade. Yes, I'm the person that does the counter videos. I'm sorry, it has to be done. Now when it comes to countering a character like Blade, I always take into account what kind of stands out in terms of his weaknesses. A weakness that kind of stands out is he's a character who has to close the distance to do a lot of damage. Now when it comes to countering this character, the obvious similarities I find is that with Magic, the biggest counters to Magic are going to probably be the biggest counters to Blade because they have relatively the same kit. And what I mean by that is that they need to close the distance by using dashes to be able to do a ton of damage. I'm not saying that they are the same, I'm just saying that they're similar in that way. So when I think of countering the character, I think about how do we make it so it's harder for him to close that gap. I think of characters like Namor, who's just going to do a ton of burst and poke damage with his squids in his primary and secondary attack, making it a nightmare for the Blade to try to close that gap. I also think of characters like Hawkeye, who can be pretty annoying. I feel like Hawkeye is relatively good into Magic, especially with his Ronin slash or his shift ability that kind of pushes Magic out of the way, and it also kind of pushes Blade out of the way as well to get a quick headshot and quickly get rid of that character. Then let's get to some tech and combos, then lastly some gameplay. Now coming to the combo section, I just want to first address that I misspoke on some of the abilities and I apologize for that. I misinterpreted what they were about. So the block is going to reduce 80% damage taken for that short duration, which is pretty solid. You can survive Scarlet Witch ult, Iron Man ult, and much more. Now in terms of the Bloodline Awakening, again I misspoke on this ability and I apologize for that. Basically you can receive healing from allies and like health packs, but it's only 50% healing to yourself. So again, I kind of misinterpreted what it said, so again, apologies for that. And yes, the shift is called the Daywalker dash, I know. Now we come to the combo section. So the combo that I found myself using quite a bit is having the hunting rifle or a hunting shotgun out. You're gonna open up with a left click to the head, so a headshot of course. Then you're gonna immediately shift, you get the healing reduction, then another headshot. Then from there you follow up by hitting E and then doing a couple left attacks. This allows you to get that healing damage reduction, or the healing reduction, sorry, and you immediately go into more burst damage. Then you swap to the Bloodline Awakening so you get health regeneration or the vampirism, whatever you want to call it. So if you take some damage, it's not the end of the world, you have that as an escape tool. So this is how the combo is going to look. Left click, shift, left click, E, left click, left click. Pretty straightforward. Now, for the most part, you don't want to be using your sword stance and then using the shift. The most important thing that you really just want to focus on is using the hunting rifle or the hunting shotgun, whatever you want to call it, and going for the dash to get that healing reduction. Again, that healing reduction is 40%. And I forgot to mention that with the ultimate, it also applies that healing reduction of 40%. So it is a very, very strong ultimate. One last thing, before you use your ultimate, you want to do Bloodline Awakening, then press Q, because it stacks the damage and you get the vampirism, so you get like 600 damage and you get all the health regen, which is absolutely insane, and you should definitely abuse this while you can. Of course, this was done in the early access build. It's definitely going to be nerfed when it comes to live servers. If it's not, this character is going to be the greatest character in the entire game. But again, always prioritize doing your shift with your hunting rifle or your hunting shotgun as best as you can. Now another combo you can do is, again, you're opening up with the left click on the hunting shotgun or hunter shotgun, so to get it right. Again, opening up with it, doing the shift so you get the damage reduction. Then you headshot melee, like a primary default melee, which is V on keyboard. You can follow up with another headshot. This is so you don't have to use the Bloodline Awakening, so you don't have to get the healing reduction to yourself. It is another combo you can use. Of course, there's better options for combos to use like I showed previously, but that's pretty much the ideal. Every combo should always begin with the Hunter's Shotgun. But anyways, hopefully this video has helped you get a little bit of a jump start when it comes to playing Blade in Marvel Rivals. And if you found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, do me a solid, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, greatly helps me out and this keeps allowing me to make these videos. But anyways, I hope you have a great, safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.